Canon makes a bunch of cameras, so we decided to put the best ones to the test and see if an experienced cinematographer can tell the difference. These cameras range from $900 all the way up to $16,000. We're comparing 3 hybrid cameras and 3 cinema cameras in a variety of different situations, ranging from ISO tests, skin tone tests, and more. Let's see if our cinematographer Chris Haggerty can figure out which one is which. I've laid everything out on a timeline here, and I've done some minor color corrections here and there. We're also going to be looking at things in log as well as with a LUT. Let's just begin here with this main shot of Julian in a cowboy hat. He looks very John Wayne in this image. Very Wayne-y, if you will. Basically, I'm just going to show different chunks here. This is the first section. There's going to be 2 cameras back-to-back, camera 1 and camera 2.
Okay.
As you know, we shot on the R, the R7, the 300, the R5, the 500, and the C70. I will say that these first 2 images were hybrid cameras. So this is camera 1, and then this is camera 2. And then with the 2 of them side by side here, you can see clearly camera 1 has more dynamic range, and then that's with just a bit of a LUT.
So camera 1 definitely has more dynamic range. Camera 2 looks like it's maybe less noisy, which is interesting, which is almost making me think that the camera 1 is maybe the R5. I'm gonna say camera 1 is the R5 and camera 2 is the R7.
He is correct. You did it.
All right.
Congratulations. So what gave it away to you for these
Honestly,
2?
I think because camera 1 had so much more dynamic range but was noisier, which I know we've talked a lot about, I think that's the reason that kind of gave it away. Camera 2 looks really, really good, but just didn't quite have as much dynamic range.
See, this is the R7, which we've done multiple videos on this channel, and you can see that it is a rather clean image, but it's also because the camera is doing a little bit of noise reduction on the sensor. And the R5 we shot in 8K RAW, so this is actually an 8K image.
Okay.
And it's RAW. That's how we're able to get the C-Log 2 here instead of the C-Log 3, which the camera shoots natively in the other codecs. And yeah, it's just very noisy because it's not doing any noise reduction. It's literally just raw straight off the sensor.
All right, next.
Next section. Okay, so here we go.
How many cameras are we looking at? 2?
There's only 2. It's same kind of thing.
Okay,
Here. So this is camera 3 now, and this is camera 4.
Ooh.
And this is just straight out of camera, same white balance.
Interesting.
Same, same kind of max settings that we can get out of a camera.
Camera 1's definitely looking sharper, or sorry, camera 3. So camera 3 is definitely looking a little sharper than camera 4. So this is maybe the C300 original, but let me see here. So that's because this is log on both of these cameras, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, although the R does have Canon log.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some clipping going on there. And then if I come over to this camera, so camera 4, 3, 4. So a little bit more dynamic range again in these 2. Mm-hmm. Okay, so camera 4 is the R, Canon R, and 3 is the C70.
Wrong on both.
No way!
You were actually warm at the beginning of this whole thing. Camera 3 is the R. And camera 4 is the original C300.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's 300. Shoot.
Yeah. So
I forgot about that one.
It's the 300, and that's the R. What's interesting to me about these 2, honestly, the R does have more dynamic range in air quotes, but it really almost looks like the camera is just lifting the shadows or something.
Right. Yeah.
Because when I threw a LUT on them and I kind of graded it to match, they really matched almost identical.
Right.
Because they're both using old, just like normal Canon log.
Right.
Which the C300 original, that was the first time that C-Log ever existed. It was the first camera to have it. And to be completely honest, even though the colors are a little green and there's definitely some noise, it's pretty pleasing for a, camera that came out in 2012. So this is actually the ISO test.
Okay.
And I will say I kind of ran through almost every single camera here. So let's just start with these 2, camera 1 and 2 for the low light test. I simply added a basic Rec 79 LUT to whatever the log image is here. And feel free to zoom in on it.
Yeah, there's a ton of noise. Even from the get-go, there was quite a bit of noise on the door over here. Yeah, right there.
So that's its native ISO at 800.
Yeah,
and it still has
pretty
noise.
gnarly.
6400, that's 12,800 right there. And then that's 25,600, which
is
very high.
Yeah. And this is camera 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's odd. This door is, giving off quite a bit of noise just from the get-go.
And a proper colorist could crush the blacks and add some noise reduction to this.
Sure, right.
So of those two cameras, which one is which? And again, a hint is that these are large format.
Okay, so I'm gonna say that it's between the R5 and the C500 here.
Okay, so which one's which then? That's the question.
Okay, so
Mr. C500.
I know. I'm like, this could be the real test here.
Mr. Guy who owns C500. By the way, this is being shot on Chris's C500.
Indeed.
If you live in Nashville and want to rent it, reach out to Chris. $500 a day.
All right, then I'm going to go ahead and say that camera 2 is the C500, camera 1 is the R5.
You got it correctly. You don't have to sell your C500.
Wait, was that what was at stake here? So what gave it away, honestly, was actually the just looking at the peaking or the highlights blowing out here in the lamp.
Yeah,
I mean,
the dynamic range.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Even all the way up at 25,000, like it's peaking for sure. Yeah. But it look like the roll off is way nicer. Whereas like if I come over here, it's like it's pretty harsh.
And I was shooting at 4K HQ on the R5 MXF, not the RAW. Format. RAW would actually have even more noise, which is why I chose to shoot it.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting.
You ready?
Yep.
So this is camera 3 of the low light test.
Okay.
So we're not large format anymore.
Okay.
I like watching Julian with his different poses.
All right, and camera 4.
Camera 4. Also, again, I apologize for my orange grade. Like we shot everything.
It was an artistic choice.
We shot everything with the same white balance on all cameras. So this is just the way that each sensor reads the room.
Interesting.
What are you observing here?
Okay, yeah. So first off, the shadows in camera 3 look like that kind of like original log C lifted kind of thing versus true like dynamic range.
All right, I'm gonna give you 10 seconds.
Okay. All right. So it's the C70 and
where's the timer?
Getting a couple extra seconds for while you find your timer.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2,
and
1.
the R7.
R7 for camera 3?
R7 for camera 3 and C70.
You got it.
I did? Yeah.
The DGO sensor, which stands for dual gain output, the camera is exposing for the highlights and the shadows and then merging those together.
Yeah.
And so you're getting like 3 exposures. It's almost like HDR log, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So it's almost a little bit like fake dynamic range, but it is doing it.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the C70 is the best exposure on this camera is to expose for the middle. So you don't actually you don't need to do the overexposed log trick because the noise is fairly clean. As you can see in the shadows here, it's not as noisy as some of these other cameras that we were looking at. The thing that is kind of a bummer with the R7 to me with this whole thing is it just looks very soft.
Yeah, I was noticing that even in the kind of the commercial spot that we shot when I was like looking at when I was actually grading some of the footage, it's kind of hard to tell when you shoot on like vintage anamorphic lenses. Is this the camera and the sensor, or is this the lens that we're shooting on?
And we were squishing, we were pulling the image and zooming in on it. But I think we're just seeing a lot of the softness here from the camera because it's, even though it's doing the 7K down res, it's just applying some noise reduction to it internally. It's just, I think, even though Canon says it's a new sensor, I'm not completely convinced that it is. I think it may be the 90D sensor in there, which is an older sensor, so it's just not very sharp and just doesn't have the dynamic range.
Yeah.
So. But it does look good for $1,500. So let's move on to a different complete scenario here.
Okay, perfect.
5 cameras back to back to back with a color chart. No, I didn't match these perfectly. I sort of just color graded each one individually, but let's take a look.
Okay. So log, graded, okay.
So this is me color grading it to taste of what I feel like is decent. Might be a little bluish, you know. And we're shooting it at the maximum settings, basically.
Oh, you matched a couple of these pretty close. Oh, that's the 500. Yeah, that's my C500 right there.
Is that your favorite image of all of them?
Yeah. Can I narrow them down, or do I have to guess all of them?
No, let's I mean,
Do it one at a time?
That's one. Yeah, let's.
Okay.
So let's. Okay,
Oh, so you're not going to reveal until the end, then?
So yeah, let's.
You won't tell me if I'm right?
Let's do. So you're saying C500? I'll make a note.
Okay. So C500. Obviously here, I think if I'm looking at these logs, that was like a really nice, flat, clean log image. So that's my C500. And something I've just noticed is like, gosh, the skin tones on this camera are so nice. So that definitely looked the most like natural to me. And this looks next closest to that to me. So maybe the C70. The reason I'm thinking it's the C70 is it's a little bit noisier, and it looks a little less like your image is a little less sharp, which might mean that flatter image.
But it's a nice filmic look to it, too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they both look really nice. I will say the noise on this looks...
It is silly just looking at my big face on the screen.
Here, how about we do that? That better?
That's fine.
There's definitely some noise, but the noise looks quite a bit cleaner on this on camera 5. So I'm gonna say camera 3 is probably the C70, camera 5 is the C500.
Okay, let's keep going.
Yep. So let's see. So that's our log.
Are you having fun with this?
Yeah, I actually do. I love this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
As long as I get my C500 correct every time, then like.
If you lose, can we switch cameras?
No.
So camera 4.
Camera 4 versus camera 2. The noise on camera 2 is actually pretty minimal too. So I'm gonna say R7. Camera 2 is R7.
Okay.
Camera 4 is C302 or C300 original.
Okay. And then R on that one.
And this would be the R. So that's
R. You sure?
No.
Okay, here, look away for a second.
Okay.
Let me just verify. I've looked at the results.
Okay.
And I have some good news. Almost all of your answers are correct.
Hey, okay.
Except for the one that matters.
No, what?
This is the C70.
Is it really? No way. Yeah, that's my C500.
It could be my terrible grade that you don't like.
Maybe.
But there is less noise in the C70 in this particular shot.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
I also hate to say it, but I like the skin tones better on the C70 in this particular shot.
With your color grade.
The C70 it has the same sensors as C300 Mark III, which is a very expensive camera similar to the 500.
Yeah, right.
But I do love the assurance that you had at the beginning.
So that's my C500.
Let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Which camera was your favorite? Did you get any of these right or wrong? And how badly did Chris do in this competition?
Yeah, don't answer that one though.
And please subscribe to the channel.